We're joined by Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how are you, sir?
Feeling unbelievable, to be honest with you.
Let's talk about this week because I was expecting more than that, Ed, but we'll carry on. Over the years, from prize fighter to Wembley Stadium, where does the excitement levels for Chris Eubank Jr versus Conor Benn rank for Eddie Hearn?
I'll be honest with you. This is probably the biggest fight we've ever promoted on for so many different reasons. I'm sitting here today on Monday, containing my excitement for the drama that lays ahead on Fight Week in many different ways. You know, I've seen comments from Chris Eubank Sr. Is he going to make the weight? Is there going to be any problems at the press conference? Is someone going to, so whenever you're this close to a fight, you're always nervous that you just want to get there. And when it's this big, like everything has gone so well, I cannot believe the anticipation for this fight, the size of this fight, the potential for this fight. The narrative is unbelievable. I mean, look, you know our numbers across our social for Make the Days Count and the face-to-face. We've never seen numbers like this. Never. And for that reason, I believe it's the biggest fight we've ever promoted. I don't know what's going to happen. I keep playing it out in my mind. I'm nervous. I'm excited. Can Conor match the power of... What are you fucking doing?
Barry's in it.
Sorry, start again. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I keep playing the fight out in my mind. You know, and you keep asking yourself, can he do it? Have we made the right decision? And I really believe he can. I really believe he can go in and mix it with Chris Eubank Jr at 157. Can he handle the power? Can he put a dent in Eubank Jr? Can he outbox Eubank Jr? How hard has Eubank Jr really trained? How seriously has he taken this?
Played the game.
He's been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Both of them. Both of them have been a joy to work with. They're a credit to the sport. They're hilarious.
He was out for a steak last night.
Yeah, apparently. But and then people were putting, I see someone said, no, I think that's from America. That doesn't look like England. And then you see him say 60% baby at the end. I mean, but they just work together, just like their fathers. You know, Eubank Benn seniors worked because you got one sort of protagonist, sort of, guy who just likes to sit back and wind the other one up. And the other one is just bubbling over, ready to explode. And they're exactly, you're seeing a carbon copy of their fathers.
Are you surprised with how similar it has all turned out?
I've always said, the one thing with Conor Benn is, even when he started as a pro, he was very, very limited when he turned professional. But you could see his dad in him. You could see the ferociousness. You could see the upper body movement and when he let him go up against the ropes. And of course, Eubank, you've always seen his father in him. From the jumping over the ropes, from the posing before the ring walk. So the similarities are there in technique and in personality. And it's just amazing to watch. Honestly, we saw 2 Eubank Benns, seniors, and we should have seen 3. Don't be surprised to see a few more of these, because what you're about to see on Saturday is a night of unprecedented drama, but also a tremendous fight between 2 young men that are desperate to win, 2 young men that are fighting for themselves, for their fathers, and for their family name. And it means so much more than the victory. How refreshing to see a fight with no belts on the line. And belts are important. Belts matter. But this is bigger than belts. And it just shows you there's no international belt, there's no intercontinental belt, there's no interim belt, there's no unified championship, it don't need it. It's bigger than that. And that's when you know you've got a monster.
It was always a fantasy fight, and imagine that, a what if. Do you think until we're actually in the O2 on Saturday night and we're here seconds out, round 1, it all still feels a little bit...
That's why I can't, I'm so excited, but I'm still pinching myself, believing this is about to happen. I was sat there with Conor and Tony, and I just threw the name in 3 months ago and said, think we could make that fight. And Conor just said, I will take that fight in a heartbeat. Now, every fighter says that, and you immediately turn to the trainer or the manager or the advisor and say, what do you think? And Tony said, I like that fight. And I never even thought in a million years we'd make this fight. Fast forward a couple of months, it took, I think this is probably 4, it took over 2 months to sign a contract from the first draft. So yeah, mad to think, watching across social media, 12 weeks to go, 11 weeks to go, 10 weeks to go, not 1 week, less than 1 week to go.
It's flown by.
Till that O2 erupts. And it will erupt. And people, even in that arena or tuned in on DAZN, will not believe their eyes. Even when the bell goes.
We've got fireworks planned. Connor's coming out to a choir.
Yeah.
I think Chris is walking to Simply
It's going to be unbelievable. The ring walks are going to be unbelievable. The ring walks will be worth the money alone. The fight will blow your mind. Jeez.
I spoke to Calla about this. We had him on the podcast last week, and we were talking about how our dads are excited, our grandparents are excited. We're talking about the numbers. I think it shows you just how much this fight has certainly cut through all the generations, isn't it?
Yeah, and we said that at the start. Grandparents watched the first fight. Fathers and my dad, my age, I watched the first fight, the second fight. The younger generation now have watched the 2 sons come through. There isn't, I don't think, we've got a huge week planned. You've got the BBC documentary on Wednesday. I just don't think that when Saturday comes, many people will not know this fight is happening. And I don't think there's many people that will not be either tuned in, dialed in, sitting there wanting to know what is happening every second at the O2 on Saturday. This fight engrosses so many generations, so many different age groups, cultures. I mean, everything. It's worldwide, it's a huge fight. But for British boxing, I think this may be the biggest ever.
We saw some great clips of Conor and Nigel in the Make the Days Count piece, which you can watch now, of course, on the Matchroom YouTube. On the pier, sharing some great moments. Nigel was talking about how there was 2 alphas under one roof when Conor was younger, and perhaps that caused a few clashes. But now they're great friends. Do you see any similarities in your relationship with your dad, perhaps when you were growing up? 2 alphas under one roof, 2 promoters, 2 Hearns, and now you're great friends. Obviously, you just walked in and gave Chris an interview a minute ago.
Yeah, no, I think just competitive. So we're winners, and that's how I've been brought up. Winning is everything. So although, as you can see, I've done all right growing up, you were never given nothing. You had to fight for everything, really, and that you had to win at all costs. So the competitive nature is something within your genes. Now, I do it in business. It's a lot easier you have to travel a lot and put in a lot of time and make sacrifices, but it's not the fight game. To do that coming from the kind of background that I came from, which was where those 2 have come from, right? That's hard. Because how do you compete when you've got all the things that all these other people are fighting for? What makes you be able to dig deep when it gets tough? Because you shouldn't really be tough like that, Now, in business, yeah, I'm tough in business, but physically, I can't get in there and get up at 5 a.m. and do hill sprints and do 15 rounds of sparring and get punched around the side of the head and have my ribs broken. No. So how do they do it? I'll tell you how they do it. Genetics, desire, passion, and something that's ingrained in you. That's the difference. Same with me. It's just that it's ingrained in me. So I'll outwork everybody. It doesn't matter what I've got. I'll still outwork you. And these guys can mix it with the people that have got nothing because it's in them. And if it's in you, and if you've got a passion for it, and if you've got the will to win, and if it means so much to you, and if you have an attitude where you will not be denied, that makes you more dangerous than any background you ever came from. And that's those 2. All they're trying to do, which is basically the same scenario as you get older, you start to realise, for all sons or daughters who come from a successful parenthood, your only option of success is to outperform your father, right? Or your mother, or whoever's the successor in the family. And that's the same for Eubank and Benn. All they're trying to do is make their dads proud and be as good as their dads or better and create their own legacy. And on Saturday night, they're doing it.
You talked about the drama of what we can expect from Chris Eubank Sr. Obviously, there was a lot of comments on the documentary as to, it's such a shame that he wasn't involved. That was obviously very much the plan from our side to have him at the forefront. Do you think we will see him this week, certainly on Saturday?
Probably not, judging by the comments, in all honesty.
That's a shame.
It's a shame, but it's added drama. You never know. Might bowl into the O2 at about 9:30 on Saturday night. I wouldn't be surprised. I think he'll want to support his son. I don't. You know, the problem is with Chris Sr. is he's incredibly stubborn, and once he says something, he'll stand by it. I don't agree with his comments in the slightest, but he said them a few weeks ago, and he's chose to stand by those comments. He likes to be controversial, and maybe this is his way of being controversial. But also, I don't think it's instilling a lot of confidence into his son. You know, you should be there. If he thinks he's going to be tough to make the weight, he should be there with him making the weight. You know, if he has to put the hard runs in and the sweatsuit on Wednesday or Thursday and have a tough week, which he will, he should be there for him. And he should be there by his side. He's been through it. Listen, people talk about making weight. No one made weight tougher and better than Chris Eubank Sr. Ask my old man. For Eubank Ben 1, it was in the days where fighters would make weight on the day of the fight. My old man tells me Eubank Sr. took, I don't know the number, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds off on the day of the fight. They weighed in at midday and then went and fought a few hours later. Now that's dangerous. You're talking about Chris Eubank Jr. coming down a couple of pounds from his weight category and having 24 hours or more, 36 hours to rehydrate. You know, Chris Eubank Jr., talk about weight cuts. Chris Eubank Sr. knew all about weight cuts. Brutal.
Do you think he makes it, 157?
I do. Because I think he's too proud, and I think he's a professional, and I think he'd look very silly if he didn't.
Winner and loser then, Ed. Just talk us through, if Conor Benn wins and Chris Eubank Jr. wins, what's next?
Well, I feel like for Conor, for Conor, it's not a no-lose situation because you never want to lose. And if you lose, you can get knocked out, you can get stopped, you know, it can affect your confidence, it can affect you physically. But for Eubank, ultimately, he's in his weight class. So, and he wants to go on and fight for a world title. So if Chris Eubank Jr. loses, he may retire. I mean, he's already said he will, but he'll be out of a world title shot. And that's what he wants. For Conor, the aim is still to pick up a world championship at 147. And if he loses, it doesn't necessarily affect that path. It does affect it, but it doesn't destroy that path. It delays it. And he's got to go again, and he's got to get back in at 147. But you know, for Conor Benn, victory means still reverting back to 147, and probably then moving straight into a world championship shot.
Frank Smith wouldn't give us a prediction, which I think is understandable. For those who don't know, he does live with Emily Eubank, so he's perhaps in a difficult position. Not so much for you though. When you do think about this fight, you're trying to think about and imagine it in your mind. How do you see Conor Benn beating Chris Eubank?
I see Conor Benn beating Chris Eubank with a mixture of boxing and fighting. I think he's got to be very smart, he's got to be very slick, he's got to be very fast. He will stand in the pocket and trade, we know that. You can never stop Conor Benn from doing that. He shouldn't do it too often because it's dangerous. And you know, Eubank is probably the heavier puncher. He has an outstanding chin, but I believe this fight will have an incredible intensity. And I think Conor Benn can stop Chris Eubank Jr. late, but I believe he'll beat him on points. And I believe he'll beat him convincingly. A
few other fights on the card. Galao Fai, once again, match tough. Another tough, aggressive Mexican. But are these the type of fights you feel he needs because he's moving at that sort of pace? Yeah,
back to the O2 for Galao Fai. He's gone O2, Madison Square Garden, O2. Not a bad start, but he's right in the deep end. You know, this is a world-ranked fighter. This is a very tough fight for Galao Fai. But he looked incredible at Madison Square Garden. I mean, he's breezing through these fighters, and how refreshing to see an Olympic gold medalist. This is his third 10-rounder since I think April or February, when he made his debut. So, you know, looking to get this one, hopefully get one more out this year. Then he's had 4 championship fights. He'll be ready for a shot at the world title.
Felix Cash, 15-0, 17.
Really good fight against Conor Korb. Really good fight, and not a lot of people know about Conor Korb. He's been fighting in America, you know, on big cards there. This is a tough fight for Felix Cash. 2 world-ranked middleweights. Really good fight.
Big opportunity for Ellie Scotney to become European champion as well.
Yeah, and 2 girls ranked high in the IBF. I expect the winner to fight Shanika Johnson for the IBF world title. And we've seen Mary Romero, really tough, very physical, Sometimes scrappy, so Ellie's going to have to dig in that fight, and hopefully we see her crowned European champion.
I suppose it's got to be world level next, hasn't it, for Ellie? When you look at the run.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, we have Maylin Rivas, the WBA world champion. Obviously, you have Shanika Johnson, the IBF, and those two are ranked very highly with the IBF. But yeah, one more, and then 100% if she's victorious, world championship for Ellie Scotney.
And then just elsewhere, Lyndon Arthur, Harlem Eubank, Shannon Courtney.
Yeah, it's huge names on the card. I mean, I know everyone's talking about the main event, but get there nice and early because some big names, some big fights, and just a massive night for British boxing.
What's your response, Eddie, to the pay-per-view pricing, and how many numbers do you think this fight does?
Just think it's absolutely huge. I mean, I think it might break all records. You know, DAZN announced this morning that the fight is also on Virgin, available to Virgin customers. The whole country knows this fight is happening, and we're only at Monday. It's just going to do huge, huge pay-per-view numbers.
Couple of questions on AJ, just because I'll get loads of stick if I don't ask you. So Bob Arum said that you're stalling this until the fight dies, that AJ wants it, Fury wants it, they want it, but you don't. What do you make of that?
I mean, rival promoter blames the other promoter for a fight not happening. Shock horror. I mean, people surely aren't thick enough to see that Tyson Fury has called 2 deadlines on this fight, and the fight has passed in Tyson Fury's deadlines. The Monday deadline, which came from nowhere, and we sent our final version of the contract back. Again, people talk about putting up barriers. We sent our final draft contract back to sign. We're not getting back to anyone. You know, we talk about arbitration. They want to appoint their partner as an arbitrator. That sort of stuff doesn't work. Then we get another one on Wednesday. Tyson Fury says, we're telling you now, the fight is off unless you sign on Wednesday. I said, it's impossible. That deadline passed. I've not heard back from George Warren since Wednesday. So as far as we're concerned, the fight's off. I mean, we're happy to continue the discussions. We haven't had any of those discussions. Again, no bad words to say about George Warren anyway, and I've seen some of Frank Warren's comments, but at the end of the day, you know, you've got a guy putting in deadlines, telling us the fight's off. You know, at the weekend, or Friday, Derek Chisora received the contract for the Tyson Fury fight. So have other fighters. So in our mind, he's not fighting Anthony Joshua. We're more than happy to continue those conversations. But what we've been told is the deadline has passed. And so have the entire country, by the way. So, you know, don't necessarily blame Anthony Joshua for Tyson Fury pulling the plug twice on this fight. We have sent the final version of the contract back. They've come back with points, and we were told that the fight's off by the man himself. AJ's training. He's still ready for that day, and we'll see what happens.
So Bob's saying, like, all of you guys just getting in a room and thrashing it out, is it just not?
Look, Bob Arum, 2 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, gave an interview and said, there's absolutely no chance this fight happens. Now, apparently, there's no barriers, and it's my fault. But let's be honest, if you asked Bob Arum what day it was, right now, there's only a 50% chance he'd get it right.
So in terms of AJ, realistically, you're saying maybe be that December 17th?
Yeah, I mean, we always wanted to fight December 17th. We accepted December 3rd because we were told that they gave us terms ultimately in a date they thought we wouldn't accept. We did accept that. We were ready to go. If they would have signed the contract on Monday, they had a fight. We were asked to agree the deal by Monday, then we were asked to agree it by Wednesday. We got the comments back on Wednesday. We were never going to sign a fight, and we were told the fight's off. So it's still there. It's still open for discussions, but we're not going to play a game with a bloke that's just coming out telling AJ it's off, and then he's a dosser and he's got to sign it, etc. Have your fight if you want to fight someone else, and we'll do our thing, and we'll see what happens.
Joe Joyce threw his name in the hat. Could he be a potential opponent for him?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Joyce is being used, in my opinion, as a sort of a decoy in the whole thing. I said last week, if Tyson Fury's looking for an opponent, why not fight Joe Joyce? Same camp. And Joe Joyce has obviously been asked to come out and say, no, I'm not fighting you, Tyson Fury, but I'll be ready for AJ. It's all bullshit at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. AJ is still ready for December. We'll see what happens.
Last couple of questions. The WBA have ordered Lee Wood to face Leo Santa Cruz, no interim bouts. I suppose that puts an end to the Lara fight being rescheduled. Yeah, it's disappointing, really. I mean, disappointing for a couple of reasons. One, because we agreed to fight Maurizio Lara and we want to do that. And secondly, because the split is 75-25. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. Spoke to Lee and Ben Davison, and
we'll see how it plays out.
I suppose though, if Warrington and Wood both come through, it makes that a real unification.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and that's what we want. We want to make Warrington Wood next year, but both guys have got had very tough fights. Josh Warrington's got a very tough fight in December, so we want to see both guys win, and then we want to make that big unification at Ellen Road or the City Ground.
And one on Dillian White, looking like the end of November. Any opponents that?
Yeah, we're just talking to Dillian. We're just talking to Dillian now about securing that date and opponents and big card end of November, and there'll be an announcement in due course.
Final question: could we see Babic Rivas on the undercard?
Babic Rivas is ultimately going to be ordered by the WBC for the Bridgerweight World Title. So we're looking to plan the date. We're speaking to Yvonne Michelle, and looks like the Savage will get his shot at the WBC Gold.
Final line: where can we watch this fight on Saturday night?
Of course, live and exclusive on DAZN pay-per-view, also on Virgin Media now as well. This fight has got everything. As I said, I think the whole country will stop and watch on Saturday night. Wherever you are, don't miss it.